All systems go. Clear for liftoff.
What is going on? Little Nick, Shannon, Deacon, Parabay, My Lanes, Michael W, NY Steagle, Mighty Saint, Gangrene, Ricky Rose's here, Juice is here, Williams here, our guy, who else is here? Trucker Chad. Yeah, no title tonight. He's eating off camera. No names here, and Axtron and Avery. Appreciate you guys getting here nice and early. I guess we were kind of late figuring out some technical difficulties on the back end because we're both in different locations than usual, so different setups, trying to figure out how to get the StreamYard set up. But we're here a little bit late. But yeah, Matt, how you doing today? Really fun Wednesday NBA slate. Just a little bit of a bummer that this portion of the season the prize pools are what they are, but all in all, a pretty fun slate in general.
Yeah, prize pools are pretty disappointing, but always happy to get on here and talk some hoops with you. Love these Wednesday shows. We got a big slate tonight with games kind of throughout the night. Nothing crazy late, but later than most slates we've seen all year. So excited to break down a slate with a bunch of games, bunch of good spots. Interesting to hear your takes here. And let's take something down tonight. Let's ship it. So yeah, man, excited to break this one down with you.
Yeah, let's do it. How do we give you a shout out? We're talking a little bit pre-show about your performance in the mill. You got all the way up to 8th place, I believe you said, right? Yeah, so that's
Yep.
like obviously it sucks when you don't get top two in such a top heavy contest like that. But regardless, really good showing for you. So shout out to you on that one. Yeah, analog men in digital world. That's right. This one's new. I'll take it though. I guess substitute teachers are cool, but. Yeah, a couple of games off the top that I think look pretty good here. There's a couple just fun games in general, like the Atlanta Detroit one should be good. This is a different slate in the sense that there's a lot less blowout concerns in some of the games. We have two tanking teams with Utah and
Right.
Washington facing off, but that'll kind of be a fun one to get to. But I mean, there's like three games that are less than 3 point spreads. Actually, four games that are less than 3 point spreads, 3 point spreads, and then five that are less than 4 point spreads. So all in all, pretty fun slate overall. But what are you seeing just from like a slate overview standpoint?
Yeah, kind of seeing what you're seeing in the sense that like every game looks like it could be viable in one way or another from a DFS perspective. But man, that Washington Utah game, it's like the perfect storm because you've got two of the main tanking teams going at each other with guys out from both squads. So it's really hard to get away from either side there, especially with how cheap most of the guys are. I mean, we'll talk about Kennedy Chandler, who I know we were both on, Ace Bailey. Like these guys are really difficult. Some of the best plays to play on the entire slate. So interested to hear if there's other spots you like more than that game. Because when I first like looked at this slate, saw that game, the price tags, who was out, who was in, I was like, man, I don't know if I can get enough from this game. So I'm just looking forward to breaking down this slate to see if maybe there's other spots we can take advantage of and maybe get away from that spot a little bit.
Yeah, to me, this feels like a very good MME slate because I don't know if there's necessarily a certain game or like a certain spot that I have a ton of confidence in, like we've had it in the couple of these slates past. But like you could really make a case for guys in every single game on the slate, maybe minus like the Memphis side of the Spurs and Memphis game. Like, but even the Spurs guys are going to look good. Like, I think the Lakers and Indy game is kind of sneaky. Maybe the one that will, I guess this would be a good segue into, but the Atlanta and Detroit game, Detroit favored by 3 there. I think this is probably one that seems like the worst environment on the between the close spread games. But I'm curious to see if you're thinking about it differently than I am. But the Pistons favored by 3 here, and this will be the first time the Hawks have faced like an actual good defense over the last month. They did lose to the Rockets, I believe like March 5th or whatever it was that they've played. But they've been playing some pretty weak opponents, and good to them though. They were on a 11-game win streak, got all the way up to sixth in the East. A couple of teams were kind of sliding. The Heat, who we'll talk about in a little bit, falling down in the standings. But I do think that this is a pretty tough matchup for them. Even if they got Jalen Johnson back, I kind of do feel like Pistons deserve to be favored here. And I don't really bet sides a lot, but I do feel pretty enticed by the Pistons -3 here because I do think that they can slow down enough of what the Hawks do well. Pistons are a really, really good rim defense, giving up, their slight three-point funnel tendencies lately, and Atlanta has been spraying a lot from deep over the last 2 weeks. Guys like CJ McCollum and Nickeil Alexander-Walker, I think, have been playing great basketball lately. But the Hawks have been a pretty poor rim defense, and the Pistons are number one in rim scoring this month. So I do think that they have the edge there, and if they can run into a cold shooting night from the Hawks side, I do think that they can pull this one out. But yeah, talk to me about this one, Atlanta at Detroit.
Man, I know it hurts a little bit to see your Pistons only 3-point home favorites against the Hawks here. Obviously, playing Cade is out, but they haven't been playing great ball, and the Hawks have been. To your point, Atlanta's been in much better spots recently. So it's hard to want to plant your flag on Atlanta guys. The only thing I'd say is like if Jalen Johnson is out again, I see no reason why we can't go back to Dyson Daniels, CJ, the same guys we were looking at. Mostly those two, with Daniels being the top option with his shooting guard small forward eligibility. Not a great spot on paper, but he's got upside at this price tag in any spot with Jalen Johnson out. So with Johnson in, I don't really think I want to spend up on him here over the other spend up options we have. And all the other guys would obviously take a huge step back. If he's out, that's where I think we can get to a little bit of Atlanta. They wouldn't be must plays like they would be on some other slates, but I think they'd be in play. From Detroit, I think that's where it's a little bit more intriguing. Jalen Duren coming off back-to-back subpar performances. Like, I think he's got a pretty low floor for this price tag, but I think his ceiling is high. So in tournaments, I'm interested. Dennis Jenkins coming off a really good game. Price tag is up. Like, I heard you make the point on him, I don't know, a couple days ago or last week. I can't remember that. Like, he's now at the price tag or he's not a must play. And I agree with that, but he's still wildly in play in a pretty good spot at this tag. Clearly, he's got upside there. Those would be the two guys. Other than that, I think it's all fringe. To your original point, though, even though I think that those guys are all in play, I do think because of how this slate lays out that this might be the worst game from a DFS perspective.
Yeah, I agree with you on the Hawk stuff. Like if Jalen's out, that's obviously gonna make these guys look a lot better. And I think I'm definitely more of like the matchups guy, but like the numbers do say that Dyson would be the preferred option between him, Nickeil Alexander-Walker, and CJ. But the matchup I think is just much, much better for CJ and Nickeil. But the small forward eligibility is always good to have for a player like Dyson. Just think that the price is starting to get to a point where it's a little bit tougher for him. Like you probably need like 50 on this big of a slate, and he hasn't really done that much. Like 45, I feel like you'd be happy with, but Nickeil Alexander Walker has that like really big upside if he's hitting shots, and I think that's a pretty good spot for him matchup wise. But yeah, the Dennis Jenkins stuff has been great to see. I wish there was like maybe I just don't listen to enough Detroit beat writer stuff, but to me it seems like they're really trying to ramp him up come playoff time for the possibility that Cade misses a lot of the first round. Because I mean he's had an incredible role, like basically the same exact role that Cade had when he was starting, and now you're basically getting, not saying that Cade and Dennis are comparable because Cade's a, first team all NBA player and Dennis is a undrafted guy, but from a role standpoint, it's the same role, but you're getting him at 6.3K versus Cade at like 11K. So even, if you just took the role into account, Dennis is probably worth $8,000 right now, I would say, in salary. So you're still getting a discount, but I would say that this is probably the toughest matchup that he's had on this hot streak. He played the Lakers. They're solid defensively, not great. Warriors are bad. Wizards are bad. and now he's playing, against Nickeil Alexander-Walker and Dyson Daniels. So I think that he could underwhelm, but there's also a chance that he's just way too cheap in any matchup. And then I agree with you on Duran. I think this is a really good spot for him at 8.5K. Still been fine from like a permanent standpoint outside of the Laker game. Just involved in a lot of blowouts, but I do think that he could bounce back in a pretty big way here. The only issue is that this is kind of like a dead zone for centers, and we have, Julian Reese or Anthony Gill, and then probably Oscar Tshiebwe, Wemby, Sengun, Bam. Like the center position is really, really strong tonight. So is he gonna pay off in a way that really separates at the position? I'm not too sure. I think that we do get a really, really strong game from at least one of, if not both, Oscar and Reese tonight, and they're going to be, 3K to 3.7K.
I'm
Um,
with you. I'm with you. The only thing I'd say is like Duran has the capability of destroying those guys because like those guys obviously points per dollar wise are likely to be Risa and Sheboy. That is both really really good. But I think Duran's ceiling in this spot is worth at least thinking about in tournaments. That's all it is. I'm more with you than against you there.
I definitely agree with you. Like I'm gonna be getting to him. I don't know what the ownership comes like if it's gonna be 15, probably like an even field thing with him. Because the center position is really strong, and I guess there is some negative correlation of playing both Reese and Sheboy in the same game, so it might make more sense to go one of those guys and then one of Wemby, Sengun, or Bam and Duran, something like that.
Yeah, maybe. I don't even know if there is though, just because of how cheap Reese and Sheboy are. Like to it's I guess my main issue with playing both of them would be, and then playing other really popular plays is just funneling your lineup into a spot where it's just too similar to other lineups. You know what I mean? That's all it
Yeah.
is.
Yeah, hard to really get a lot of win equity when you're building the same as a lot of people. All right, I think that'll do it for that game. We could jump into the next one on Sabre. They have Chicago at Philly, a game with injury news on both sides, maybe less important on the Bulls side, but they have questionable tags, upgrade questionable tags on Yabu and Isaac Okoro. We've been seeing somewhat of a tighter rotation for the Bulls as of late, so we've gotten, pretty solid fantasy performances from Giddey and Matas. And this game does have it should have a lot of fantasy appeal because it is a 240 over under. Sixers are favored by 6.5, I believe, and they're getting Paul George back and then potentially Joel Embiid. It sounds like Embiid's going to be back tonight, which is tough because when I was looking at this a couple of days ago, thinking about Edgecombe and how great the matchup is for him, it's going to be tougher for him to really separate in a big way now that Embiid and Paul George are going to be back to take away some usage from him. I don't think it matters as much with Paul George returning as it does Embiid because we know that Embiid could really just dominate usage when he does play. Even in limited minutes, he's probably going to be posting like a 35+% usage rate. But I mean, I'm kind of interested in Paul George here at 7.5K because it sounds like he's been staying in NBA shape, obviously out with the suspension, PEDs or whatever it was that he got suspended for, but he's healthy, which is good because it's kind of always been the issue with him. But he's been in the building, he's been practicing, taking contact, and it sounds like he's going to be back to full, which might be like 35, 36 minutes right off the bat in a really good matchup. Um, but yeah, I mean, the Bulls side I would love to get to. It's just going to be a little bit tougher if these guys do come back, Okoro and Yabu, because they are playing. But I think that Giddey and Matas are definitely in play here. But yeah, what are you seeing in this one?
So I'm with you. Like when you first look at this game, man, it looks really appealing. The problem is I think there's other games that look even more appealing, but to your Philly point, I also really liked and still do like Edgecombe if Embiid is out. If Embiid is in, he's just too expensive. But if Embiid is out, I don't care about Paul George. And I understand he might be too cheap and he might be in shape and he's been whatever. I'm not playing Paul George here, 7,500. Like I
I definitely
can't
don't
do
think
it.
he's too cheap, but it's just like a matchup thing. Yeah, he's definitely not too cheap.
Like his first game back at this tag, he's projected. Like that's a ripe projection. So Faber and other projection systems see it similarly to you. I can't imagine he'll be high owned. He's not projected to be highly owned, and people won't want to go there. So I get it. I just don't think I can do it. For me, Two guys from this game that I like: Edgecombe if Embiid is out, and then Giddy from the Chicago side. Talking about playing 37 and 39 minutes again the past two games. We've seen it. The Bulls are not afraid to run him massive minutes towards the end of the season, even with Chicago playing for nothing. This game should be good from a DFS perspective. And because there are better spots on paper, like a bunch of them, he or nothing from this game is going to get a lot of love. So, man, if Embiid is out, I'm really considering running a Giddy and Edgecombe pairing in at least one of my lineups.
I like that idea because I definitely think the scoring will be there. And I mean, Giddy's, I think people are still kind of off of him because of the price tag, but I mean, he's passing the ball like his potential assists have been through the roof lately. Just the scoring and rebounding has come down a little bit. So I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if it all kind of lines up in a good matchup here. So I'm with you on that. I think that's a pretty interesting pairing right there. I think that does it for this game. Really, not much else to talk about. I feel like it's a pretty top heavy game environment in terms of the spend up. So I think we can move on to the next one. Lakers
Yeah,
at
just
Indy. This is go ahead.
I was going
What
to say
happened?
yeah to your point. It's just tough because there's just other really good spots on this slate, so it's hard to prioritize value there. It's just spend up options or nothing for me.
Yeah, same here. So this game, I think there's kind of a lot to unpack here. Lakers at Indy. We've been seeing obviously the Pacers have been tanking most of the season, but I mean a home game against a team like the Lakers, I wouldn't be surprised if they do run up their guys a little bit. I feel like they're pretty safe where they are in the standings right now. I just want to pull up Tankathon real quick. So it's kind of a three-man race towards the end between Indy, Washington, and Brooklyn for the bottom three spot. Sacramento has 19 wins. Those teams have 16 and 17. So it's a lot easier to lose games right now than it is for them to win games. I feel like this could be a game where they do play things more straight up, and we saw against the Magic where they actually came away with the win. I mean, they play their guys a ton of minutes, and they're like, this is the Pacers are easily the most talent, like NBA talent ready team of the tanking teams when they play their guys. It's just a matter of not of them playing them. And if they do play them tonight, I kind of feel like the game plays closer, which is great for the Lakers guys because we've basically seen in every game over the past month where at least one and sometimes up to three to four opposing players post a tournament viable or fantasy winning score against the Pacers. So that is great for guys like Luca, for Reeves, for LeBron James, and then potentially more value open up at the center position if Aiden were to miss because he is questionable with a back injury. So I have a ton of interest in all three of those guys. I feel like Luca is clearly the most appealing guy here because he's has the best upside. 12.2K, a slate where we have plenty of value. Like he makes a ton of sense. LeBron turning back the clock a little bit as of late, a couple triple or triple double in one game, close to another one the other game. But settling into more of like his role as a third option on the team, I think does cap his upside a little bit. So I would say I have him as a close third between him and Reeves. But I mean Reeves, man, he's just playing a ton right now. I feel like it'd be smart to get overweight the Lakers side of this game. But in particular, Reeves and Luca, I think are two guys that I really want a ton of here because I do think one of these guys, if not both, go for a tournament viable, if not tournament winning score. But yeah, talk to me about this one.
Are you willing to play both those guys together in like, smaller field stuff, like allocate that much salary?
Unsure. It feels like a lot, but I wouldn't be surprised if they both go for like enough for you to like not need them, but like they'd be fine at their prices.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that. Just curious to how you felt because I like your point about, man, uh I'm getting stuff about Tolu Smith in the chat. Like he was, if Duran was out that night, like he's the backup set. I can't. Okay, so I like your point about like the Lakers at home for Indy. The only time they come to town all year, they're coming off a road win. Like to your other point, the only reason they're really in this mess, or not even mess, they're tanking this year is because of the Halliburton injury. Like other than that, their roster is pretty good. So if they play their guys full minutes tonight, I could see it like playing a couple of these Lakers, Siakam is cheap if he's going to play 34, 35 minutes. I think there's better spots. I'm not sure I'm going to allocate the salary that it's going to take to get to the guys I want from this game, but you're drawing me in. Like, I get your points, and it's interesting, if nothing else. And even with that being said, Luka looks like the best spend up option on the slate, which he often is when Jokic isn't on that particular slate. So, if nothing else, it's Luka. But I like your points about the Bron, Reeves, and then your indie calls. Like, so I'm playing multiple of the Lakers. I'd like, I like the idea of running it back with an indie guy, even though it's not needed.
Yeah, more so I was saying that I think that they could keep the game competitive. I don't necessarily know if that would make the indie guys
Okay.
viable, but the prices, I mean, yeah, like you said, the prices are pretty good. Like Siakam at 7.8K, if he was playing normal minutes, would be a guy that we're always considering. Same thing with Nemhard at 6,400. Like it is, these prices are really cheap. It's just like we don't know for sure if they're gonna be playing them. But I would say that like if you do play a Siakam or a Nemhard, it does make a lot of sense to pair them. I don't necessarily think that you would need to do that on the other side though.
Makes sense.
But yeah, this game, I don't know, very interesting to I'm just kind of curious to see what Indy does because if they do play it straight up, I mean, man, the Lakers have to be in a really, really good spot here. All right, we'll jump into the next one. Potential finals preview. Depending what team you're a fan of. If you ask Matt, he probably would. Yeah, I don't know. You're more realistic as a fan of your own team, but I feel like some people aren't. But I think this is kind of the two clear favorites for their respective divisions. OKC at Boston. A, I mean, it should be a fun game from a viewer standpoint. We did see the last time that these teams faced off, we got a couple solid fantasy scores, mainly SGA and Jalen Brown, but I think take that with a little bit of a grain of salt because Boston was without Tatum and Derek White that night, and OKC was without J Dub and Isaiah Hartenstein. So much different here where we have two fully healthy teams and a really low over under. It feels like it's going to be tougher to get tournament winning scores from either side of this game, but to that point, I mean, the prices are pretty fair. SGA at 10.5K looks solid as a spend up. I think Jalen Brown at 9.3K is a good price tag for him, 8.8K for Tatum. Okay, I think Derek White is in play here. The thing that does interest me is that both these teams have basically the same style of defense, elite rim defenses on both sides, but two of the biggest three-point funnels in the league. The Thunder are first in defensive three-point frequency. Boston is second, but Boston takes more threes than OKC. So they could win that battle and potentially win the game if they do run hot with their three-point shooting here. I think that's kind of always the way that you beat OKC. But yeah, is there anything that's really sticking out to you in this game? Because I do feel like it's a little bit tougher to get to from a game environment standpoint with all the other high-scoring games and value in the other games.
Yeah, so totally agree. For me, it's all about the spend up options here because it's a tough spot for each side, no doubt. But both Boston and especially OKC playing a lot of non-competitive games. So SGA's price tag is kind of accounting for that. In a spot tonight where you're not guaranteed, but likely to be competitive, I can make the case for spending up to be contrarian on SGA, Tatum, or Jalen Brown. The secondary fringe guys, I'm less interested in, except for maybe like a Pritchard, a Derek White because of the 3-point funneling you mentioned. But really, it's about the spend ups here and potentially playing a lot of the chalky value and then spending up to be contrarian with an SGA and a Jalen Brown, something like that. I don't think I'll do it, but it's in play. And it goes into just what we've talked about and what I've talked about on pretty much every show I've been on lately is about getting off the beaten path a little bit more this time of year in NBA with projections just not being able to be as sharp as they are at the beginning towards the middle of the year with so many teams doing funky stuff. So that's all it is for me, spending up to be contrarian. Other than that, I don't think this is a game we really want much of.
Yeah, I feel like this is more of like a narrative-y type of game. Like it's a big matchup for both teams in the sense that these are two of the best teams in their conferences.
Yeah.
And I feel like for Shea, like I almost always like him in worst matchups on paper, like against really good teams, because you know that he's got that kind of killer instinct where he's going to play more minutes than usual. He's going to be probably having more usage funneling his way. And I actually do think that the matchup might be a little bit better for him than it was in that one game, because I don't know if people were watching that. It was a really good game, but they were sending a ton of doubles at Shea in that one. And you kind of can't do that as much here because you have J Dub, who looked great in his return, by the way. Kind of taking off some of that like importance that you just can't really throw all those doubles at Shea anymore because they have secondary playmakers that can actually score. You have AJ Mitchell now, like all these guys, they're fully healthy, so it's gonna be a lot tougher for Boston to really be doubling up Shea here. So I do agree with you that, I mean, a pivot from Luca down to Shea, like you're obviously not getting the high end ceiling or highest end ceiling from going down from Luca to Shea. Like Luca can go for 90. I don't know if Shea's doing that. But if he goes for like 65, Luca goes for 60, then definitely opens up a lot of salary to maybe go off some of the like shakier chalk and into like a more mid tier option. But yeah, all in all, I think a good game, fun game, not necessarily one that you need to be going crazy with in DFS. Next one,
I really know
a
what you're
guy.
saying though about like earlier in the show about how like a multi-entry type of slate, because a lot of these games are like this where they might not stand out as like the top game of the night, but they all have things where you could see busting out in tournaments. So like if you're playing a lot of lineups, hence multi-entering like you were talking about, you can get to all those different spots. In smaller field stuff, it's hard to choose like which spot you want to get to. I'm totally with you, and I am seeing it as we break down this slate. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I mean, it's fun. Like this is I feel like we've had so many. I don't want to say bad slates because there's still been some fun ones, but like in terms of the games, that's all kind of sets up pretty nicely here.
Exactly. Good way to put it.
Yeah. What's up, Colin? Hope everything's going well. Did you ever answer Toddle's question yesterday? I think he was asking if you figured out if you're gonna be having a baby boy or a baby girl, but either way, congrats, whatever it is. All right, Miami at Cleveland should be a fun one. The highest scoring game on the slate, as most Miami games are, just with the pace of play that they play at. Miami's down pretty bad after dropping I believe their fifth game in a row. Defense has been really bad. Offense still getting it done, but they're getting killed around the basket, which is really bad for them because that's kind of been their strong suit under Eric Spoelstra, and especially the last 2 years. But they've kind of been worse around the 3-point line all year. Definitely always beating the drum to take 3-point shooters against them, but hasn't really been much the case this year, or at least as of late. But they'll be fully healthy for this one, and I think we're going to be seeing a lineup change tonight. I think Pelle Larson is going to be going to the bench, and we're going to be getting Norm Powell back in there, which I feel like they should be doing. But yeah, we'll have to wait and see. But I do think that's going to happen tonight. As for the Cavs, they'll still be without Jared Allen. It sounds like he's ramping up here pretty soon. Craig Porter Jr. is out for a couple games. Jalen Tyson is also out, and then Max Strus getting the night off after the back-to-back. So yeah, all in all, I think this is. I mean, Miami is always involved in these really high-scoring games, but they are so spread out in terms of usage and in terms of their salaries. Like everybody's always appropriately priced, so I think they're tougher to get to. I think your Cleveland Cavaliers look interesting though, so I'll let you break down this one. Miami at Cleveland.
I honestly feel similarly about Cleveland as I do Miami. I think Cleveland's more appealing because of the points you just mentioned about Miami. But I think you're kind of dealing with a similar situation in Cleveland now with Mobley, Harden, and Mitchell all healthy and priced like basically the same. It's Mitchell for me tonight, but the ownership looks like it's there on Mitchell and it's not really there on the other guys. I mean, I don't know. I guess Harden projected for basically the same, depending on where you look. Mitchell's more, Mobley's the least out of all of them, but he's now expensive. I don't know, man. Like Miami is involved in these high scoring games, and I think this game looks appealing from like a 30,000 foot view. I just think pricing is efficient all over. I don't really care about Struce being out for like a DFS perspective. Maybe I should care more. I don't know. I think I just want to lean into other spots more on this slate. Like I like the Lakers Pacers call more. I like Edgecombe Giddy more. I just I don't know. I don't think this is the game I'm going to lean into hard, and maybe that's to my detriment tonight. But I just think pricing is efficient. That's I think honestly what it comes down to. Am I off?
No, I feel like you're definitely on. Like the reason the Cleveland guys were more appealing last night was because it's only a 4 game slate. Like we have what 4 other games to choose from, so 8 other teams. I'm kind of with you. I feel like it's a max one of Harden and Mitchell, and then I think Mobley's good regardless with who he plays with. I do have interest in Mobley because I mean he was like our guy Scooter was saying, he was super efficient last night, 8 for 8 from the field. Listening to
Yeah,
some
eight
podcast this
shots.
morning, just yeah, but like yeah, if you start 8 for 8 from the field, you would think that he deserved more than
Get
eight
better.
shots. So that is that was a little concerning, but I mean hopefully they've talked about it, but I do think that the more that
I
Harden
think
and
it's
Mobley play
him.
together, it's him.
Like
Yeah, it
I
could
don't
be.
think it's like deserving. I think it's him personally, but maybe again I'm off there and my you know biases are being shown.
Yeah, potentially. I feel like you're pretty good at being unbiased when it comes to your own team, though. I don't know. I just feel like with the more games that Mobley and Mitch or and Harden play together, I feel like the better they will get. Like we saw Jared Allen, we kind of knew that he would be a lot better with Harden. Mobley has like a different type of pick and roll game than
That bit.
yeah, so it's like it's kind of finding the like it's easy for those two for Jared Allen and Harden to acclimate because it's like he's like Capella but but better and
Yes,
different things.
Allen is a big pick and roll
Yeah.
guy. Mobley likes to go out to the 3 point line a little bit more. The
Yeah.
angles are different. They have been a lot better with it recently. And I know Scooter's mentioning Mobley had early foul trouble last night. That easily could have gone into his inaggressiveness or lack of aggressiveness, I should say, because he stayed on the court, but you kind of need it all from him on any given night. And the 8 shots should just never happen. I tweeted about, from 2 games ago when he had 1 rebound at halftime against the Pelicans. That just cannot happen for him, a guy his size, his talent level. That's why I automatically go to it's him when you talk about the 8 shots. Now, to that point, they need to get him more shots because when you're that efficient and that good, you just have to get more. So they're still working out the kinks. When you add a guy like Harden, I think it's going to take a while to all acclimate together. To that point, though, like this game should be high scoring. I think that someone from Cleveland, a couple guys from Cleveland are likely to get there. I just don't know if I want to spend my money on choosing who.
Yeah, I think that's fair. It is nice that Mobley does have power forward eligibility with how good Denver is tonight, so I definitely think that he is firmly in play. And I'd probably say the same about Spida and Harden, but they don't necessarily have easy matchups by any means. Donovan's going to be guarded by Davion Mitchell. I will spend some time looking at the head-to-head stuff because I feel like there's a good amount of data there. So I always thought that they were brothers, but it turns out they're not, like not related at all. Which is like I don't know why. Like nobody ever told me they were related. I just kind of made it up in my own head, but they're definitely not related. Um, yeah, Harden will see Andrew Wiggins. I don't really know which one's a better matchup between those two. Um, hopefully, I don't know if you guys can hear the mower in the background, but if that's too loud, let me know. Yeah, so oh yeah, we got to touch on the Miami stuff real quick. If Norm Powell does start, I definitely have interest there at 6.5K. I think that this could be a spot where they really tighten up the rotation here. I don't know how deep in the bench you're going to go. Like I think Bam is 9K, so it's going to be tougher for him to get there with the strength of the center position, but I do have interest in him because we have seen him go off. Obviously, the taking away the Wizards game, but like against Houston, he had a huge game. Played like a 24-minute rotation in the second half, and he didn't really want to come out last game. So I think that we could see really heavy minutes on these Miami guys.
Yeah, I like that call. And again, to your original point, like this game does look appealing just like from an overall points, possession standpoint. Should be competitive. The only thing I'll say about Miami and kind of, I guess, boosting my Cavs a little bit, even though I'm certainly not that high on them going into the playoffs, they kind of got shredded last night for their defensive performance against Orlando. Atkinson, after the game, was talking about it, told them that if they play like that, it's going to be an early exit in the playoffs. So, like, I think you might see a really good effort from them tonight, which maybe doesn't matter, but maybe it does. And I was already kind of leaning on probably getting away from this game, and that doesn't make me like it anymore. So just throwing that out into the ether.
What was it that he said? He said something like our defense was bad. It was something about Sam Merrill in particular because they were saying the defense was bad and he just needed to get offense on the court, and that's why he went with Merrill. It was something along those lines, right?
Yeah, and he also was saying like verbatim, if they play like that in the playoffs, they will be going home early. So
Yeah.
I just think you see them strap up tonight.
Yep. Definitely. Um, yeah, we'll see. This game environment's got to be in play because even if they do, I'm not like refuting what you said at all, but like Miami plays so fast, and it's just hard for game environments not to be high scoring with how fast they
Yeah.
play.
And
It's
even
like,
like if it is true, like Cleveland doesn't really have the horses to be great defensively anyways. So I'm not playing them because of that to that point.
yeah,
I'm just again like doesn't make me like them anymore. And I was already like thinking that maybe I want to lean harder into other spots. So that's all it is
yeah.
for me.
All right, cool. All right, San Antonio at Memphis now. Big news in this one. The Spurs will be without De'Aaron Fox tonight, lower back tightness, and then plethora of injuries for the Grizzlies as always, but Jemai Mashak is doubtful, and then Ty Jerome and Jalen Wells will be out for this one. Javon Small is questionable for this one, but they'll get Cedric Coward and Cam Spencer back tonight. So pretty deep rotation for Memphis. Could tighten up a little bit on Javon Small. I feel like we can spend less time on Memphis and more on the Spurs though, because De'Aaron Fox does leave a pretty sizable role in terms of playmaking and touch time and all that stuff. Obviously Dylan Harper is the guy that we're going to be looking to, and I think for a great reason. But some of these other guys will definitely get more involved here. And I mean, it's going to be hard for me not to get to Wemby here, but you could make the case that these guys are more underweight positions because of the big spread. But yeah, talk to me about this one.
Yeah, so Memphis is just not a team I'm interested in playing here. Limited lineups. If I were playing 150, I wouldn't be like Xing all of Memphis out, but it would take a lot of lineups for me to prioritize Memphis guys in this spot, just with how many good. You mentioned it at the beginning, like there's only like one or two spots maybe to get away from on this slate, and Memphis is one of them. So I'm out on the Grizzlies. From the Spurs, Wemby looks great. The problem is the spread. You've seen him play a lot more in games that are likely and have been competitive. So, man, he should absolutely nuke when he's on the court here. It's just a matter of how long can he stay on the court. But that said, like in blowouts, I'm always much, less hesitant to play guys from teams doing the blowout. So I think if you're not playing Luca, Wemby makes a ton of sense. I don't think you have to play him, but wildly in play as the second best, or if you want to say the best spend up option on the slate, I get it. Dylan Harper looks like a guy that I'm gonna struggle to get away from. Huge bump with Fox out. He should get a lot of the minutes without their main guys on the court where he's just eating and taking all the usage offensively. So I really like Harper here. Keldon Johnson, I think wildly in play. Whenever they're missing guys, he's going to have a good roll off the bench and he's really cheap. I think he does look good here. Vassell back in play. Champagny. Stephon Castle. Like, I think Castle's got upside here. I don't see any reason why Wemby should be like four times as owned as Castle. I think that in terms of like the blowout, they're in similar spots, but Castle's really cheap for his upside. So San Antonio is definitely an important team on this slate. I'm not sure how much Spurs I'm going to get, but if I'm making one lineup right now, Harper's definitely in it, and I'm going from there. Likely another Spurs who are in that lineup.
Yeah, great breakdown. I definitely have I guess kind of like a take on Wemby, but I mean, there's a lot of talk from him personally, like post game, kind of vying for himself to be the MVP. I feel like this is like a statement game for him against a really bad team where he could go for like 30, 10 plus, and the Grizzlies are getting blocked a ton right now. They also have a lot of inexperienced ball handlers outside of, like Cam
Yeah.
Spencer So like I wouldn't be surprised if this is a game where he has like 30-10 and then like 10 plus stocks in total. And then it doesn't even matter if
Reminds
he's
me a
playing for
little of that
25 minutes.
spot. Reminds me a little of that spot before the All Star break against the Lakers. Remember they were just like sat everyone,
Yeah.
and he went nuclear and like just half. I think he only played a
Yep.
half, but he went nuts. So I'm with you. I like that call. If you're playing one lineup right now, I guess is it Luca or Wemby in tournaments for you?
It'd probably be Luca, just because I think in like a single entry you're probably locking in Sheboy and Reese. I just feel like that's probably the chalk you'd want to eat. Then you're going like Harper and Luca, and then kind of filling in the rest. But with that said, I think that's going to be a very chalky route that a lot of people go. But it's hard to argue against it. I think Luca's in
Yeah,
a
with
great
I
spot.
like that call because no, sorry,
Go
go
ahead.
ahead. I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, it's all good. I think we might be on a little bit of a delay, so I think there's a little bit going on there. Yeah, but yeah, with all that said, I do think that the narrative behind Wemby kind of vying for, MVP voting and defensive player, I think he's got DPOY locked up probably for the next like 4 years. But for sure, I don't think that and he's the one that's saying like defense is half of the game. He's one of the, I think, Shea plays solid defense, but Luka doesn't really play a lot of defense. Jokic doesn't play defense. If we're talking about all the MVP candidates, he's easily the best of the four. So I do think that a big defensive game here could definitely help his case. Um, yeah, just like there's a lot of content about the awards right now, so I've been kind of locked in there. But I do think Wemby is interesting in that narrative alone. But I agree with you on Castle. Hard for him to not be in play here. The only issue is that he'd be the one guy I could see really getting cut down if the game does blow out. And I agree with you on Keldon. Keldon is the leader in six man of the year odds right now, so I feel like he's got to be in play for sure. Like Harper and Keldon, easy clicks.
Yeah, to your point about Castle, he's also kind of in that dead zone, like you mentioned with Jalen Duren earlier, where I think a lot of it's going to be spending down and then spending up, stars and scrubs type approach to this slate for sure.
Yeah. Um, Brian, we will get to that right now actually because this when we talk about this game right now. But he will definitely be seeing the court tonight. Washington Wizards. I guess let me go through my Grizzlies real quick. I think that it's a max one, potentially max two if you're doing 150 max. And there's really three guys that I'm considering: Spencer, Clayton Jr., and Giroux are the three. I think Cam Spencer in particular is interesting because he does have that small forward eligibility and is actually a good permanent producer. So he's a guy that I'd be looking at a little bit tonight. Washington at Utah. Um, I mean, arguably one of the biggest tanking games of the season for the Jazz. It's getting close between them and Dallas now, and a loss here would for sure help them because they are pretty close to the Kings. So I think you know, letting the Kings pass them would be huge here, but I think it's gonna be really tough with Washington really tanking it up here. But Utah only favored by 4 tonight. I'll go through the out tags on both sides. On the Wizards, all these guys are basically done for the season, but Cam Whitmore, Trey Young, Keyshawn George, D'Angelo Russell hasn't even suited up for them, and then Anthony Davis. And then tonight they'll be without Alex Sarr, Trey Johnson, and Tristan Vukcevic. For the Jazz, no Keontae George, no Isaiah Collier, no Sensabaugh, no Kyle Filipowski, and then Laurie, Nurkic, Jaren Jackson, Walker Kessler, all done for the year. Um, Yeah, so I'll let you touch on the Wizards stuff first, and then I'll break down the Jazz as the resident Jazz fan. I do have a little bit of a take on what they're going to do tonight, but yeah, go through what you're seeing on the Wizards stuff.
Man, first off, look at this ownership, like just all over this game. I mean, good luck getting away from this ownership. Certainly the Utah side looks more appealing, but Washington impossible to get away from. And from the Wizards, I think you start with Koulibaly playing big minutes right now, 5,800, fills a weak position. He looks like the top piece of Washington and getting owned as such. Then you go down to the fringe pieces because all these guys are fringy but wildly in play. My favorite is going to be Bub, 5,600, point guard and shooting guard eligible. Good spot for him. Should play big minutes here. He's my second favorite piece. Jaden Hardy in play, 4,100. Sharif Cooper, contrarian option. Anthony Gill, Jameer Watkins. I'm not excited about those guys, even at cheap price tags, but they have to be at least in play. Your ultimate GOAT, Will Riley. I don't love him. I don't really want to spend 5,700 on him here, but can't say he's not at least in play. You know what I mean? Like, and we're both not really Will Riley guys. So, yeah, you got to get Washington exposure here. I don't think you have to overload with Wizards, but I do feel that Utah is going to be higher owned. And part of me is like, okay, well, then I'll play a little bit more Washington than the field. And I think that's totally a take to have. I don't think you have to have that take, but I'm going to have Wizards exposure here in any lineup I make. I think it's unavoidable. How do you see that and the Utah side of this game?
Pretty much agree with everything you said on Washington. For me, I think Reese is the best option. I imagine he's going to start tonight because when he does
He's
play,
like not projected on Sabre.
yeah, that'll change. I think they got him back up to like they have him at 8. Yeah, they only have him at 9 minutes right now, which is obviously not correct, but that'll come way up. Um, the guys that I don't expect to play a lot, so I really want to be getting away from the guys that are getting ownership on the Wizard side that I don't think would play a ton of minutes. So that would be like Justin Champagnie. I wouldn't be surprised if he plays like 10 minutes. I think that you could probably, I mean, we've seen Koulibaly play deeper in a blowout, so a little bit more worried about his minutes and him kind of hitting in a way that you would need to have because he's actually been really good as a per minute guy with this current iteration of the roster and also a Jazz team that does turn the ball over a lot. He could really spike for a big steals game. But yeah, I don't know. I don't think that Hardy really does it for me personally. I think that the guys that I like the most on Washington outside of Reese would be Bub. So I agree with you there. Point guard, shooting guard eligibility is good, and we've seen his minutes really get ran up regardless of game script. I would say that I think I like Jameer Watkins a little bit more than you, but mainly because he's small forward eligible, and I think that there's a chance that he starts again here and probably playing 30 plus minutes. Um, and then Sharif Cooper, I agree with you. I think that he's an interesting option because he's probably going to be a little bit overlooked tonight. I think he'll probably be in the single digits. And I mean, I don't really necessarily think that he's a great player by any means, but I mean, if Bub is going to be so much higher owned than him, then he's definitely worth uh, looking to as a pivot. The only issue is that he's point guard only. So pretty valuable position, but you could play him at guard for sure because this is one of the later games. And then like guys that I would keep an eye on to start, Leaky Black, 3,700. And I think that's pretty much it for Washington. But yeah, really focusing in on Reese and Bub the most from the Wizard side, and then all those other guys that I mentioned. On the Utah side, I think Sheboy is going to be getting the start tonight, so they'll be down Filipowski, and then they called up Blake Hinson, which I think is big because so basically I was listening to a press conference from Will Hardy this morning, and he said that the emphasis moving forward now is internal development and two-way play. So that tells me that Kevin Love and Svi are two guys that are probably not playing tonight, which would give them eight bodies. Cody Williams is questionable. I think that he'll be back tonight. If he misses, then you're probably getting Love or Svi into rotation a little bit. Svi probably makes more sense there. But I think with those quotes kind of in mind, I think that they're going to be going with all these younger guys, and Love and Svi will not play. So that's eight guys are going to be playing. I think the front court minutes at center will be split between Sheboy and Blake Hinson because they do kind of view him as like I guess like a backup center. At least DraftKings does. And we've seen the Jazz bust out the small ball lineup a lot more. Like you don't need a big body against the Wizards. Their backup center is Anthony Gill, who's more of like I think he might be like 6'7", 6'8", so he's an undersized guy. But I think Sheboy is an exceptional play tonight at 3.7K, an amazing rebounder in the G League, kind of like a high effort guy. So he's going to be going after boards, and the Wizards have one of the worst rebounding teams in the league. So I think that there's almost no chance that he doesn't put up a really solid score if he's starting tonight. As for the rest of the guys, I mean, you're the ace guy, so you're the ace whisperer, so I'll let you talk about him. But just looking at the numbers over the last couple of games, I mean, the role has been great for him. 32% usage rate over his last three. averaging 56 DK points per game. Dropped 37 points last night, and the Jazz rookie record is 41 points held by Donovan Mitchell. I think that he could break that tonight. Um, but he had what 19 threes last game, and even Will Hardy said like he doesn't mind that he took that many because it was kind of flowing to him naturally. It wasn't like a forced, or sorry, it was 19 against Milwaukee. But he was saying that wasn't really like a forced 19 threes. It was just flowing to him. He's not going out of his way like seeking these threes. He's kind of accepting more contact as well, getting to the line when the game calls for it. So really rounding into form as a pro right now. I think that Ace is kind of just a wave that you have to ride until it kind of breaks. And I think that this is a really good spot for him. And then Kennedy Chandler, going right back to him. He had I think 5.8 minutes of touch time last game, led the team there, led the team in potential assists. Gonna be playing a ton. I think he does better than he did in the last game. I was watching that game actually because I'm a sicko and I like pain watching Jazz games, but he was missing some really, really easy shots. Like I think he airballed two or three floaters, airballed a three. Didn't take a ton of threes, but I mean fell one assist shy of the double-double bonus. I really think that he's a very strong play tonight. Gonna be owned, but that's chalk that I'm totally fine eating. Um, I think Harkless is probably chalk you could get away from. There's a chance that he bounces back here, missed some really easy shots, but watching the game, they just weren't really using him on ball as much. They're obviously running a lot of their offense through Sensabaugh and through Ace, so maybe with Sensabaugh out, he does see a little bit more of a bump in usage, but he was kind of just standing in the corner most of the game, wasn't really initiating the offense either. I think that was more Kennedy Chandler's job. So I think that'd be one I'd be okay getting away from. And the same thing for Bez Bang. He's just a defensive specialist. So it'd be easily a max two of Harkless, Chandler, and Bang. Um, and I think Conchar is in play too, because there's a chance that he goes small ball five. They did that a lot with him in Memphis. But yeah, if there's anything else you want to say about the Jazz stuff, I think Hinson also in play too, power forward center eligible. I'd probably be a max two of Conchar, Sheboy, and Hinson. I think those would probably be the three guys that get the front court minutes.
Yeah, I'm with you all around here. I think that the thing that stands out the most from this game is like when you look at projections, look at the difference between the SaberSim projection and Ship It projection on some of these guys. Like Kevin Love, to your point, projects as a really good play from a SaberSim perspective, projects as nothing from a Ship It perspective. Leaky Black, Champagne, similar stories. That's kind of the nature, like how the cookie crumbles in NBA DFS right now, and you kind of have to navigate through those waters. That's just something that I noticed. As far as like your takes on the players, I'm completely in line with you. My only hesitation with Ace is, man, he's been 2, 3, 5% on the past couple of slates. Now he's going to be 50%. He should be because he's really coming into his own. Really, really talented offensive game. He's too cheap for his role with Collier, Keontae, Markkinen, now Sensabaugh all out. I just hate that the ownership is just insane, but I mean, it should be. So I'm gonna play a lot of this game. Sheboy looks like probably the best play on the slate. I think his ownership is much higher than anyone's projecting right now because of how good he looks. Like, there's no way, in my opinion at least, Harkless is the highest owned play from this game, especially considering how last game played out. I think Chandler, Ace, Sheboy, and Koulibaly are all higher owned than him, and I like all of them more than him. Um, yeah. So wow, I don't know if that changed right now or like because now we have Chandler and Sheboy higher owned. So yeah, I like a lot from this game. I like Conchar too. Obviously, I'm more interested in the Utah guys and the Washington guys, but this game should be competitive, tight spread. You know, it's hard to get away from just fully loading. And even with other good spots on this slate, this one just looks that much better. At least that's how I read it.
Let me ask you a question about the Ace stuff because I do agree like big sticker shock from what we've seen from the last three games. Price is up a little bit, but the ownership is way up there. Obviously, the matchup is great. If he were to underwhelm, are you more likely to pivot to somebody on the Jazz? Because I mean, technically, he does have a tougher matchup going against Koulibaly, one of the better wing defenders, but he also went off against Scotty Barnes last game, so he can do it against tougher defenders. But like, I mean, guys like Paul George is $200 more, Matas Buzelis is $200 less. So there are direct line pivots off of Ace. But do you think that it's more of like a pivot to somebody on the Jazz that would do well if he is getting shut down, or like one of those straight line pivots to like George or Matas?
I think because of where he's priced, it's more of one of those straight line pivots because I think there are ways where he's not great because he's missing a ton of shots and it doesn't really help a lot of other guys from Utah. The other side of that is I'm already playing the guys I want to play from Utah. So like Kennedy Chandler, to a certain extent Sheway, but more like Chandler. Yeah, I could see Chandler, you know, bumping up a little bit if you're bumping down Bailey, but I'm already playing Chandler. So there's no guy that I like want to play instead of Ace on Utah. I think it's more about just like he's missing shots, he's not engaged. Maybe they don't play him as many minutes tonight, like just weird scenarios because we know he's not consistent. That's not like the part of his game that to write home about yet. He's uber talented, but consistency isn't there yet. So I like him a lot tonight. Like you said, he could break the rookie scoring record for the Jazz tonight, but wouldn't be like the craziest thing in the world if Utah pulls an okey doke and he doesn't play as many minutes. Or like, again, he's missing shots. And when young guys miss shots, they start to become less engaged, foul trouble, etc. Like there are ways this plays out where he underwhelms. And for me, it's you mentioned the sticker shock. It's the ownership sticker shock. I think he's too cheap for his current role, but man, like you get a guy who I liked last slate that certainly the spot was harder on paper, but doesn't even matter with his current role coming in at like 5%. Now he's going to be 50%. That's tough to swallow, you know?
Yeah, I agree with everything you said. I think that Cody Williams might, as gross as it sounds, because we kind of know what we know about Cody Williams, but he's a guy that they are very invested in to developing. I feel like if Ace at all is limited, not limited, but like if he gets shut down a little bit by Koulibaly, the offense has to flow through somebody else, and I feel like Cody Williams could be that guy.
Yeah, like all that being said, also, I'm just gonna play ace. If I'm
Yeah,
playing one lineup, I'm you know what I mean? Like
yeah,
I'm you can make devil's advocate cases to get away from him. Like he's at the price tag now where you need a big score, but he's most likely underpriced, which is why the ownership is there, and I'll find ways to get different elsewhere.
yeah. I mean, it's gonna be honestly. I think it's really tough for Ace to not do good to great tonight. Just, I mean, I've obviously
Yeah.
watched a lot of Jazz, and I pay attention to all the press conference and everything they say about him. Will Hardy and all that stuff, and he just looks like a completely different player these last few games. Like I think he's really just rounding into form in a big way. And yeah, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, kind of to piggyback on the question you just asked me though, like I will say, last slate, I think a big reason why his ownership was very low was because you had Dyson Daniels, basically the same price tag, who
RJ
pulled a lot
Barrett
of
too.
ownership. Yeah, RJ Barrett too. I feel like tonight, if Jalen Johnson is out, you almost have the reverse scenario.
Yeah,
People will not play Dyson Daniels nearly as much because Ace Bailey is right there. So, like, you could totally talk me into flipping the script and playing Daniels over Ace, even though I fully recognize Ace is the better play, projects better, etc. And I will play Ace, but we know how DFS works. It's an ownership game. So I think there's cases to be made for at least thinking that out, you know?
yeah, for sure. Yeah, great breakdown. Definitely think that was worth talking through. Yeah, we both liked Koulibaly. Not much more to add there. You can go back a few minutes, and then Jose, I think that the last couple minutes should answer your question. Say what's up to our boy, Titletown. What's going on, man? Titletown dash TP8WQ. What's going on? Um, all right, I think that should cover it for Utah tonight, or for this game. But yeah, definitely one you're gonna have to get into it one way or another. I think this game is gonna be very strong, but I would say it's just be a little bit cautious about how much you're playing because even on an 8 game slate, I don't know if we're gonna need like 5 to 6 from one game, probably 4 from this one. I think preferably like 3 to 4 would be good in this one, but yeah, I think that the Utah side looks really good here. All right. Last game on the slate, Houston at Minnesota. Huge game for the Western Conference standings. Double check the standings, I believe. Is it Houston is one game above? I have to double check, but I think one of these games, these are the fifth and sixth seeds regardless. So really big game. I think we're going to see extremely tight rotations, which we pretty much have seen all year long from both these teams. So I feel like this is kind of the perfect storm in terms of guys playing a lot of minutes because both teams do not, both these coaches don't really trust going deep into their bench. We've seen 7.5 to 8 man rotations from both sides in this one, but even more so here. Like it's going to be a 6 to 7 man rotation here. So a lot to like, and then we also have a questionable tag on Io DeSumo, which would open up more value in the forms of Bones Highland, who I think would look great here. The Rockets' defense has been slipping a little bit as of late, and I don't want to point any fingers, but Reed Shepard did recently join the starting lineup a few games ago and is very huntable on defense. Their rim defense has been fine, but they're giving up a little bit more threes as of late. And the pick and roll defense for Minnesota is still a big issue, but they have fixed their rim defense as of late. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if the Rockets go back to Tari here tonight, just with how bad the defense has been. We'll see though. They probably give it another game or two if it does go poorly, but we're seeing a lot of the offense really just run through Sengun and Kevin Durant. They're really leaning on these guys heavily. I think Sengun is another very strong center option tonight, even in a borderline, bad matchup. You could say what you want about Rudy Gobert, but I still think Sengun does enough of the peripheral stuff that kind of negates the matchup. Um, just a little bit tougher to get to though. You got to compare him to all the centers that we've already talked about, like the Wembys, the Duran, Bam, Reese, and Shibwe. So he'll definitely get overlooked, but probably rightfully so. I don't know if we're going to be getting another one of those 75-point performances, but he's going to be playing 36 minutes tonight for sure. I think Kevin Durant is probably a little bit easier to get to, but he will be going up against Jaden McDaniels tonight. They got Kevin Durant, we got Jaden McDaniels matchup here. But 8.9K, I think that's fair for him playing probably 40 minutes again. I think Minnesota is probably a tougher side to get to, but I think all in all, this should be a fun game, probably the second best game on the slate from a viewer standpoint behind that Boston OKC one. But yeah, talk to me about this one.
Yeah, I see this similarly as you. Like the appeal from this game is the competitive nature of it and the fact that these teams both run limited rotations. From Minnesota, I think they become a lot more appealing with Io being out if that happens. So then you got like Bones and even like a Kyle Anderson who would likely be coming to play, but mostly Bones, who right now is interesting in tournaments, but that's about it, just how this slate plays out. After that, man, tough to prioritize the Wolves here. Like Nas Reed has upside at that tag, but I think there's a reason that none of these guys are getting ownership. And I think it'll stay that way unless the soon moves out. Houston looks better, but I don't love them either. Like KD in play at 8,900, really good eligibility here. They've added shooting guard to go along with that small forward, so easy to fit, not a prohibitive tag. Fine with him, but not a guy I'm personally building around more than likely, especially with Luca. Talked about Gideon Edgecombe, Wemby. Like, it'd take me a bunch of lineups to want to just build around KD. That said, like he's only 8,900. So you could play him with one of those other guys. And if my build lands like that, then I'm fine playing him. Reed Shepard, presuming he's starting. We've seen the upside. I'm good with him. He's probably my favorite piece just because of the price tag, but hard to prioritize it at the guard position. I was all over Sengun last time out against the Bulls. Was monster, especially in the second half, triple doubled. I'm less inclined to get to him tonight. Just a much tougher spot. Price tag is higher, and we've got better center options. So I like him in the sense that he's a great tournament play with upside, but last slate he was in a much better spot and wasn't getting owned. Tonight he's in a much tougher spot. So I get it as a spend up to be contrarian, but that's all it is for me there. So all in all, I could see playing a couple pieces from this game, but I could also see not and just letting it ride and playing a lot from Washington, Utah, and then filling in from wherever else it is, Miami, Cleveland. I mean, we made cases and we talked about how good of a slate this is in terms of being, every game pretty much being viable. So that's the reason why I don't think you have to get to anything from this game. But on the flip side of that, this game is viable in itself. So if you want to plant your flag on playing one of the spend ups from Houston and maybe Io's out and you play a couple guys from Minnesota, I can get on board with that. I just don't think that's how I'm going to play it.
Yeah, fair. As somebody that plays fewer lineups, I think that makes a lot of sense. For me, I'm going to be bumping these guys up for sure in my MME build because I do think that the entire team, or really the entire game, is underprojected from a minute standpoint. Like Kevin Durant, I know it's hard to put somebody at 40 minutes because things can happen, injuries, foul potential or foul risk or blowout potential, things like that. But if the game is close, which Vegas expects it to be, he's playing 40 minutes tonight. I think Sengun, 33 minutes that Saber has is 3 to 4 minutes too low. Amen's probably playing 38, 40. I think Randall is probably playing like 36 to 37. Like Io is gonna be playing a ton if he's in. Jaden
I was
McDaniels is
really looking
playing.
at Randall. Randall's
Yeah,
interesting to me in tournaments with like no one getting there. With his upside high, we've seen it without Ant. So
yeah,
you're selling me a little bit on this game, kind of like the Lakers Pacers game, just in terms of there being untapped upside because people aren't going here really.
yeah, for sure. And it can only get better. I think that if there will be ways to pivot onto Bones if we do get the news before that Washington Utah
Oh
game
yeah,
tips off. So that's kind of an interesting pivot if you get that right. Kind of, I mean, I honestly like that regardless if you're landing on Harkless or I guess Chandler. Like I do like Chandler more than Bones by a pretty wide margin, but I'd
same,
consider playing Bones over Harkless.
same,
Like,
same, and
yeah,
same.
so yeah, I think this game is interesting. Just a huge game for the standings. I think we could really see some tight rotations for each side in this one, which you just have to have a lot of interest in. But all right, that's gonna do it. Great show as always. Duran's probable he'll play tonight. Yeah, this is one I think I talked about this with one of our guys in Discord on Saturday or Sunday, but I do think that if they had Van Fleet, that would make all the difference for them this year. It just brings a veteran calming presence that they don't have when Kevin Durant's off the court, and that's why you see KD playing so many minutes. I mean, he's almost a couple years away from being 40, and he's playing 40 minutes a night. Like that's just crazy. You'd expect more from the younger guys, but I think Van Fleet is a guy that they're really missing this season.
Yeah, even beyond that, like I'll take it a step farther because I also agree. But as good as Durant is, Van Vliet is more of a locker room leader, in my
Yeah.
opinion. KD is obviously the better player, but he's more of a loner, isolation guy. Van Vliet, I feel like, has been the leader in almost every locker room he's been in. So yeah, I'm totally in agreement with you. I feel like when he's healthy, if he had been healthy this year, he would be the head of their snake, even though he's not the most talented. He's been there, he's won. I'm a big Van Vliet guy, just in terms of his ability to lead a team. I guess is the best way to put it.
Yep. Yeah, agree with that 100%. Um, I would say if you're in our Discord, we'll definitely have the slate plan up that will have all that, but usually just a projection. I don't know, it's tough to go through that. I think we broke down the slate so you can kind of get an idea. Are we getting we gotta get out of here, but I think we might be
Yeah.
getting this Philly stuff.
Okay.
Yeah, it's all good. We'll get that over in Discord. But yeah, that's gonna do it tonight. Matt, always a pleasure. Um, Also, yesterday did kind of prematurely mention that that today was the last NBA show. That was wrong. We will be doing shows throughout the rest of the season. So you'll be seeing Matt again on Friday, and then myself tomorrow. Or actually, no show tomorrow, but we'll be back regular schedule. Or there'll be a modified schedule, but we'll get that out to you guys pretty soon. But all right, good luck tonight, everybody. Have a great night, and we'll see you tomorrow.